that particular day. I took note of it because Awas was not only an angel, as I incline, or a devil that held, but he was which once was held holy in summer, but he was my holy guardian angel, and he was the imprisonment head of AA. AA means Argentine Ostrom, which means the silver star, it means Sirius. So now he's saying that this particular Awas is a form of Adani, who is also a form of Melchizedek, who Melchizedek is the head of the great white brotherhood, and Jesus was of the order of Melchizedek. There's some other stories that saying that Melchizedek life parallels Christ identical too. So now what are we talking about here? Number one, we've identified that this particular Christ figure, or these particular Christ figures are always coming. They're always touched down, and there's been many of them throughout history, but it's also identifying that every last one of them is black, including the one who came and gave Alistair Crowley the Book of Law in 1904, which is the second version of the Book of Coming Forth by Day, and the Book of Coming Forth by Day being the oldest book on the planet, on which your Bible, your Torah, your Quran, and all your other books come up out of. It's being the oldest book on the planet, 10,000 years on written history, and 600,000 years on the Word. So it being the one, in the actual second edition of that came in this particular, in this particular 20th century, in this particular century, saying that the Christ figure are those people who embody the Christ figure, black people, because Awas, who gave it, was a black man, a tall black man in his 30s, who is the spoken word of the Christ figure, Heru, who is a silent figure which lies in you called Melanin. Then it's saying that this particular people will rise up on the earth plane today. So now Akhenaten was one of the Christ figures that was also in Kemet, and if he would have gotten his thing and the priest wouldn't have killed him, Kemet wouldn't have never fallen. Therefore, it wouldn't have been a thing about them trying to get things socially right, for the simple fact, if he was the embodiment of Christ and they'd have done the right thing, they wouldn't have had to worry about an outside invader anyway. Because the first thing they would have had to try to do is to go out in the caves and get those particular crackers and raise them up on a level of not spirituality but civilization, to get them from eating all kind of feces and all kind of raw meat and all kind of and eating the number one and number two and any kind of gross thing you can think of in the caves. Because as we have the actual knowledge that we created them in Africa, which is now documented facts off of the temple of Seti I, then they say, well, since the brotherhood said, well, you created them, so therefore that means that you got to go clean that mess up. You see. Why? Because we asked, well, why in the devil would the Moors go up into Spain and give the white man 16 universities and then give them masonry in the whole 9 yards? Or why would the Egyptians or the Kemites let the white man in their mystery system? It's because we created that particular beast or mutant, both in two spans that I'll get into in a few minutes. We created that particular beast, so therefore, because we created that particular beast, it became our karmic legacy or our karmic responsibility, and we became genetically tied. You know, yeah, if you want to get more on this Moors of Spain who set up the 16 universities and gave the white man all the knowledge that he know now that he's ruling us by, and the whole set, you can get this, the Golden Age of the Moor by Ivan Van Sertima. Another book is Stanley J. Poole, the Moors in Spain. But we became tied to them, so therefore we had to do that particular stuff. Because remember now, the white man is ruling now. If we didn't educate him and give him some stuff, you see what he has done with education. He has killed over 1 billion people. Over 1 billion people on the planet. Well over 1 billion people. That's a small number. Because he killed half of his race. He's killed over 1 billion people, killed all the plants, and killed everything on the planet, including the planet. Just think he did this with education. What do you think he would have done without education? You understand what I'm saying? God knows what will happen. So we had to genetically tie ourselves. And when I say genetically, we had to introduce alchemy in Kemet, alchemy also in Spain, to try to give the white man what is called a soul. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Now, what's going on? We need to take this thing all the way back to see how this thing starts in the land of Atlantis. Now, the original name for this particular Atlantis, some people say Terra, some people say Hyperborea, but the original name for this particular planet, where we had the actual government of the ancient time. Now, we also know at this particular time that they said once we found out that the Sphinx was older than 9,000 years old, and they traced it back to 80,000 years old, every little bit of chronology that you know of when you study, as far as this old humpback man and this Australopithecus and all this stuff, maybe those were the actual genetic races of the white man, but with every little thing that you know when they show you that particular Sphinx, you know that you got to throw out all chronology. Because everything that you know of in actual literal history, or what you would call chronology based on what the white man is giving you, you got to throw that out. Also, he would want to give you something that's earlier, no, that's later, this for the simple fact that he wants you to believe in your mind what is called a catechism of impossibility. The later he gives you history, you think that the white man was here along with you. So therefore, you would think that since we've always been here with white men, there's no way that you can possibly wipe them off the planet. But if you find out you was here millions of years in civilization, not millions of years where you sharecropper, you the hunting-gatherer stage and you hunt lions. We're talking about miraculous civilizations, more advanced than what we have in America that went down in Atlantis and Lemuria. Once you find out that, you'll find out that the white man is only a newcomer. You say, well, hell, if we lived a million-something years without him, then therefore he don't have to be around now. Which is one of the keys on the reason why we cannot get our stuff together is because the reason why we compromise and sell out, because we think that we got to be with the white man forever. Therefore, you say we got to live with him. You hear white people say, we all got to live together. No, we don't have to live together. And we're not going to live together no more other than a next couple of months with this particular beast, because we get ready to take him off the planet by 1995. If God willing, if they grant us to do what we want to do. 98% of the time, the reason why it hadn't transpired up to now, because we are never ready. You understand? So, this particular time that we're talking about Atlantis, that now we know that the history of the Sphinx is 80,000 years old, that puts it right back in the middle of Atlantis. We find out one thing. Number one, Hemmitt was not a colony that sprung up after Atlantis sunk. Hemmitt, by the Sphinx being old, was actually actual capital of one of the lands of Atlantis, because this all used to be what? One landmass. By it all being one landmass that sunk separated based on continental drift. The reason why we know that is because we have, did you ever get the book, The Return of the Ancient Ones? Did you all get that book in? By the Empress. Well, they show you that this black woman owned all the United States of America. Now, as a result of her owning all of the United States of America, we know now that the particular one landmass, we know that black people, by being all over the planet, and wherever you go to Japan, you see black people. You go to China, you see ancient black people. You go any place, you even go to Russia, they got black people that's living there. They did not migrate in there. They were the original people that was in there. So therefore, we know that in actuality, this was one landmass. And by it being one landmass, we know that there was no such thing as Kemet or Egypt springing up after Atlantis sank. We understand that the white man don't want you to know, because he understands if it's one landmass, it's got to be one people. Therefore, if it's one people, there's only one people that's the owners of this particular planet, and we don't have to abide by the laws of no niggas. And when I say niggas, I'm talking about the other doggone people on this earth, because we own this planet. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, they understand that this particular one landmass was here. Then we know that Egypt, Africa, and all of the rest of that was all one place, and all black people was all over the world, because we got proof of that in America and wherever you go. And we got the parallel monuments in America, and we got the parallel monuments over here, and I'm going to get into some things on Jacksonville, Florida, that we found out is also substantiating what the Moors of the actual Noble True Ali people are saying, that this all was one place, and we was equally ancient over here as we were over there. That original land was called Al-Kemoria. Like I said, these are things that's coming down off the spiritual tube. When the white man lies in his books, we get it halfway accurate. Because every now and then he'll slip up. We get it halfway accurate. But when we cannot get the ultimate truth, we go into the spirit. That's why they say, don't listen to what I say. Don't take what I say literal. Check it with your spirit. If I stand up to you and give you some particular information, and your spirit says it's wrong, then you'll know you got to deal with it. But we're not talking, when we say check it with your spirit, we're talking about actually checking it with your spiritual nature and not your intellectual nature, because you are intellectualized white people, you will intellectualize white people being God if you go by with this white man's particular knowledge. So now the original land was called Al-Kemoria. Al, which means God. Kim or Cam, which means black. And Moria or Mor, which means the Lord of the earth, is where you get the actual root of the Moors. Now the Moors was not just an Islamic group that came up in Spain. The Moors were a group of black people that was always here because you got the black Moors. They talked about them in Rome. Before Islam even started. They talked about the black Moors in Greece before Islam even started. So if Moor was just an Islamic component, why we have the Moors before then? The Moors used Islam to put on the particular European who was too savage to get anything but a dogmatized way of looking at things. And he used Islam because Islam was a mirror of our nature on how we used to act normally before we even had any books even calling it a religion. So this is why they used Islam at that particular time after the 6th century AD. You see, with the whole rise of Muhammad and the whole 9 yards, then the Moors came into play. So Al-Kemoria is the actual name of that particular time. Now, what happened? We understand now that we're dealing with some things. We understand some people are saying, well, why we see other races of people that they can come in and they can rise up and they can get businesses and they can do all this particular stuff and they can rise up, and see the black people, we can't never do anything. Because spiritually, you are not supposed to rise up as a black economic base equal to the white man in a land of your own. You understand what I'm saying? Capitalism is immorally wrong. It's wrong to charge a person for food, water, shelter, clothing, and whatever the basic survival things, which this country is built on, which this is actually stolen property, stolen merchandise, stolen minerals, stolen culture of your people. So therefore, spiritually, you are not supposed to take part in a capitalism of the American way. This is why it never worked for you. It worked for everybody else, but it never worked for you. This is telling you something about you and your own innate nature. Yeah, we had a few pockets of the Black Wall Street in the early 20th century, a few black people that did a certain amount of things, but we're talking about a race as a whole. Number one, we now populate about what? 60 million people. So when we talk about we got to raise stores and we got to do all that, we know by the time we build that kind of conglomerate that the world would have been over, triple times over, for the simple fact that the white man did not raise himself up by capitalism as far as just going and working hard. He stole what he had. You know, black people be saying, you know, the white people come in and black people let them get over on them by saying, the white people say, we worked hard, we came here, the hell, you stole it all. If I come into your doggone house and steal your house, steal your children, steal your furniture, you doggone right, I'm going to have an advantage over you. And then steal you to work. And then you're going to tell the person that you stole the work and then stole his house that you need to doggone get up and work like I did because I worked hard. You damn right you worked hard. You worked hard in stealing and killing. So therefore the white man didn't have a doggone jump start on us. He didn't doggone do all this stuff that he's telling you need to do. He didn't do none of that. But see, by us not having history, we sit up and we quote these doggone things so the actual black bourgeoisie say them niggas don't want to work for nothing. You can't never work and steal the kind of stuff that this white man has got. This white man stole the entire earth. Anyway, that's against humanity anyway. You understand where I'm coming from? So therefore, the whole capitalism thing is a doggone joke. You see? So now, dealing with these particular things, it was not meant for you to be the way you are. So quit fronting on looking at the white boy and saying, why I'm not like him. That's the lowest manifestation on earth. A man that steals his own way into power. And then by maintaining that power, he kills everything around him, the doggone planet, the fish, the animals, the even going out in space. You don't want to be like that because we always take the moral high ground. Not like Jesse Jackson said. We're not talking about being no bootlicking and buck dancing niggas like Martin Luther King. You understand? Excuse me, I don't want to attack the dead in the whole 9 yards, but like they say, they use this particular man And you know the whole 9 yards on that particular thing. Martin Luther King was a savior for white people, not for us. He told white people, this is where things need to be done. And will you do this? And that was the best savior they ever had. And as a matter of fact, every time you get in an argument, they always bring up his name also too. Because they know what doggone time it is also too. Now, the whole key to that is the reason why that will not work for you, and the reason why some of the Afrocentric people are saying you need to go back and be like the people in Africa and Egypt. That's not good enough for you. Because remember, at this particular time, you were a fallen people when you built Hemmitt and all the greatest civilizations that we built in our fallen things that the white man hadn't even been able to duplicate to this time. And he's trying to duplicate it by throwing up New York and trying to outdo Egypt by throwing up his empires. I'm going to throw up my buildings higher than the doggone pharaohs, and as a result, the doggone planet, because he put all these tall buildings on it, it's got a wobble in it. So now the spacecraft got to come in just to tear down all those particular buildings. That's why New York is getting ready to go. And remind me of that, because we're going to get into that in a few minutes also too. Now, the reason why you cannot just go back to Kemet, because Kemet is how you were after you got trapped into this third dimension. At one time, you were the gods on the planet. And everything that a god that you know of, that you read in mythology does, that can do that, you used to do that particular stuff too. That's why Jesus said, just as I have done great works, this is nothing. I'm playing with a few little magic I've learned out of the mystery system. Greater work you shall do, which means that you're going back to the Godhead that you used to be in Atlantis, in Lemuria, and even before then, before you even came on the planet. Well, what does that mean? That means you see everything those animals can do. One animal can disappear. One animal can transform. One animal can live up under water. One animal can live up under the earth. One animal can live in the dirt. One animal can do all these things. One animal can fly. Everything that the animal can do, you can do also if you tap into your particular godhood. That's why, like I said before, we was talking about, that's why you got to go get the movie Thunderheart with Val Kilmer. Came out with what, first part of 92. You got to go get that movie Thunderheart. Because in the movie they simply state that these are the events that happened on an Indian reservation in the early 1970s. But yet they got a brother named, a revolutionary figure named Jimmy, he turning into birds. He turning into doggone rattlesnakes. Called shape-shifting. Because they can really do these things. This is the kind of power we talking about having. We talking about the kind of power to make tornadoes. We talking about power to make rain. Did you see the Indians doing? We talking the kind of power to bring down empires and throw up empires. This is the kind of science that we used to do when we were on the Godhead that we cannot even conceive of now, because it even sounds like some hocus pocus thing. But remember, truth is stranger than fiction. You understand? And by us being 180 degrees from the truth, it's not just to say, man, know thyself, just know your history. It's man, know thyself, that is it not written in your law that ye are gods, as Jesus Christ said, because you are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So you mean to tell me that there's an earth realm up there, which they tell you this particular Aton, and Aton has certain rays. What is that book? It's on all the pictures, we'll pass it around again. Just put it on the first page. If you see this, you see Aton has certain rays. This represents God, Sirius. You see these rays is touching you, mainly in your particular melanin, and putting you to the rays. And so you are a solar product of the greater product. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. So if that God up there is capable of doing everything, if you are the smaller microcosmic embodiment of that God, you can do the same doggone things too. Now that's not saying that you are the universal prime creator, but you see these particular hands right here, these particular rays, you are one of these rays. Do you understand that? You can see that? You are one of these rays, so therefore you have the capability of doing what this particular person is doing. But you are not this person, but you are right here, these rays, so that makes you the microcosm of the macrocosm. So therefore, what we're saying is the reason why you are not able to function even on this planet at this particular time, because you have outgrown this planet in a third dimensional context, or a third dimensional density, or a third dimensional vibratory rate. You are fourth dimensional people, and every time you dance or you throw a basketball and Michael Jordan will stop in midair and do things and different things you do, It's showing that you are not just capable of the realm that you live in. You are capable of greater realms, even in your thought process, because the melanin is a greater thing that's in the embodiment of you. Okay? So therefore, we're talking about everything that you can think of in your mind, you can do with your physical body and your spiritual body. And these are the realms of the gods that we used to be. Now, what had happened was because our earth is a fallen planet that fell from the realm of Sirius and fell into what is called a third dimension, our spiritual center shut down. And as a result, we got trapped in the third dimension, and our brothers and sisters that we talk about the great hierarchy got separated from us. So when we deal in the spirit world, we are only making a telephone call to our brothers and sisters that we once used to be like before we got limited to a physical body shutdown. But what we're talking about as the earth goes into another birthday and goes to another realm, what we're talking about is us regaining what we used to have in those times when you used to run as a god, as Melanosis said. Well, who used to rule before Egypt, as the Greeks told? He said, well, that's when a whole bunch of gods used to rule. Our ancestors, who had the capabilities of doing more than what we did, and this is why we used to have the mystery system to raise a person back up to that God level. So therefore, the reason why we cannot function and we can't get nothing together is because God wants us to do something greater than just own a society. The white man has done that. He's done a sloppy job, but he's still running things. But you're supposed to be the God. You're supposed to be superior than the doggone mute. So therefore, by you supposed to be superior, you're supposed to have the full apex of what you used to be. Because if the earth takes a swing back to the original place of what it's supposed to be, then you're supposed to be the original people. The original people were not the Egyptians, the original, which is just a person walking around like you who have the knowledge to raise yourself up to godhood. The original people were gods. That's what's called the Elohims, or the fallen sons of Seth that's in your book of Enoch, that they took out of the Bible. The reason why you don't understand this particular thing because they took the book of Enoch out. Or they would call these fallen ones that they talk about in the Bible. This particular fallen, this particular Lucifer. Lucifer means light bringer. And it wasn't that he fell from God, it's just that our particular earth fell from God. So therefore, we are the fallen ones. Check. Everybody with me at this particular time? So at that particular time, it was called Al-Kamoria was the name, and we got shut down. Now, we know now that this particular Moor thing we talk about, that it was one landmass because we got this woman that owned all this land now. And as a matter of fact, she owned this particular land. Now they got one thing that's getting ready to go down. The one thing is the white man is already on it because they gave her Monroe, Louisiana. But she owns all of this. They said, well, to be right, they gave her Monroe, Louisiana. Now I said, now that sounds kind of strange to me. White man ain't never gave us nothing. All of a sudden, he's just going to get up off some land. But I done found out another key that she hooked up with the doggone AWAP and the aliens, just like I'm hooked up with it, and just like now you all are all hooked up with it. When y'all build y'all altar and start pouring them libations, y'all going to have all the juice you want. All right? Now, the Delta Force has already pulled away from the government. Because you know how it is with white people, they are opportunists. They say, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down with a fight. So some of these white people, even the Ku Klux Klan, they're saying the Ku Klux Klan is a bigger threat to the United States and the skinheads just like the Nation of Islam. Because now the Ku Klux Klan is saying, we ain't going to be poor, not for nobody, especially not even for white people. So if we're going to be controlled, and white people saying they ain't going to be no slaves, they're saying we're going to rather burn this place down than to let the doggone ruling powers of the New World Order have what they're going to have. So as a result, the Delta Force, which was one of the main combat forces of the United States, has already pulled away from the government. They went over to Europe and seized some gold and brought this gold back to, I think, to the United States and put it in the Fort Knox, and now they're guarding it. Now they went to the actual empress, this black woman. This is how powerful things are going down. They said, listen, if we fight to get your land and get you declared the ruler of your land again, can we squat on your land and have a safe haven for what's getting ready to go down? She said, cool. Y'all gonna do the stuff? Hey, cool. She said, I mean, she know white people opportunity, but say, hey, her thing is bigger than that, so they can't shit the gods. You understand? So then she's like, cool. So now they're saying is this, when the Rothschilds, the Vanderbilts, the Japanese, and all these people come back and say, we own this now because America broke, and we coming to collect on the debt, then the Delta Force going to stand up and say, hey, look, you can't do that. They say, why? They say, because you don't own the land. The land is owned by Empress Berta, this black woman in Monroe, Louisiana. So they're saying they're getting ready to back her, and this will give them, justify them, so they can get up and start fighting. And this is the information that she came down for Christmas, and I saw it all documented and written out. And this is the juice that's getting ready to go down, so we don't even have to need the white man. The reason why they're doing this is because they understand that she's hooked up with AWAS. AWAS is a tall black man in his 30s, the same brother that is hooked up with me since the last weekend in October, and the day that I met him in his spiritual thing, and the sister identified, said this man, this tall black man in his 30s with some Arab dress, is behind you, was the same day I met the Empress, and I didn't put it all together. But when she came back down and told me, look, brother, I know AWAS too. And I said, oh, that is right. You were the first day I met you when you came to Atlanta to speak was the same day I met this AWAS fella who's supposed to be the embodiment of God, Adoni or Atan or whatever you want to call him. I met him in the Spanx Metaphysical Bookstore when a sister come in, a psychic sister came in and started quoting the same thing that I done read in the book 2 weeks ago about this particular angelic host, who is supposed to be one of the most ancient gods. She said, I'm down with AWAS too. And she said, remember I told you of the story. She said the government was getting ready to indict me. They had a list of things they was going to indict me for. They was going to indict me and send me to jail on a Tuesday. 2 days before that, I think 3 or 4 days before that, what happened was this particular alien came in her front door, came through the wall. And she said the government already done cut off all of her electricity. And the alien said, sit down to a black man. She said, a tall black man said, sit down to the typewriter and type out this particular thing. So she said, I can't type it out because the typewriter is electric and you cut off all electricity. And the government cut off all electricity. He said, just go and sit down and start typing. She sat down and started typing, and this particular typewriter started working. Then he told her to send this particular letter to Washington, D.C. When she sent the letter to Washington, D.C., the woman called her about 3 days later and said, well, I don't know what you did, but I'm just getting ready to send out an indictment on you. She said, but everything that I was going to indict you for, you got an explanatory explanation for everything that I was going to indict you for. You got an explanation on this paper, now we can't indict you. So now she's hooked up with this, and the reason why they had to give her Monroe, Louisiana, because the white man already know that this stuff, he's getting ready to get rocked by the powers above, and they know that they got a little bit of time left, a couple of months. But they don't want a doggone chance that, because the people can come in overnight and take this thing back. You understand what I'm saying? From that realm, but we're going to take it back from this realm. Now y'all stick with me. So, these are some things that's going on. Now, we've already identified in my previous lectures, and I don't want to go into the whole thing about this creation of the white man. You can get some of my previous lectures that I talk about that, mainly the human artificials and all. What you want to do? You want to, huh? Is it time for a break?
An hour and a half.
On the tape?
Exactly. It's up to you.
So I'm just saying, okay, let's see. Boom, boom, boom. You want to take one now? Or you want to take one later? You want to take 50 minutes now? In about 15 minutes. Okay, let's end this part. Then we'll take it. On some of my tapes, I talk about this creation of the white man that we got an actual document from Emory University and other ones that I put in this book, The Human Artificial. But if you don't want to read the book, you can get the tape where it talk about this white man being a created man that we got from Emory University that they sent to the black preachers down in Atlanta, and they didn't know what they had for 10 years. I don't want to get into the whole story. But Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, which is in the temple of Seti one where the Egyptians straight out say, we created them. Now, Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that when we talk about the white man being created in the 6,000 year history, we're not talking about what happened in the other 26,000 year period. Our earth goes around the sun every 365 days. Our sun goes around a greater sun every 26,000 years. After 26,000 years, this is what is called a great year, or the end of an eon, or the Christians misconstrue as the end of the world. It just means whatever world is ruling, if it ain't right, it's coming down, which we know the beast is on its way out. So that 26,000 year period Kemet went through 5 of those things. If Kemet went through 5 of that means that Kemet had to be in existence along with Atlantis and Lemuria. It was all called Al-Qamoria. If you get the secret doctrines, where Gerald Massey is talking about in the secret doctrines, and she quotes from one of his books, Natural Genesis, on an article called A Typology of Your Time, that Kemet went through 5 of those in the secret doctrines. Now, which is by Blavatsky. Now, at this particular time, this 26,000 year period, he said that when I'm talking about the creation of the white man in 6,000 years ago, I'm not talking about the creation of this particular white man in other 26,000 year period. I'm talking about him in this 26,000 year period. You see what I'm saying? He said, so this is what we talk about the 6,000 years. They said, yeah, he's probably been on the planet before, and he comes on the planet every time we need to take a plummet and a fall. Now, the thing about it, when we was talking about Gerald Massey, well, why would doggone AWAS come and reveal a book, which is the second phase of the part 2 of the book of coming forth by day, us, and this particular black God come and reveal a book to him? Well, come to find out that he was a guy by the name of Elipius Levi in the 1800s. In the year he died, he reincarnated and was born again as Aleister Crowley. He was also a particular person that was around the time of Muhammad. Now, we need to get into this reincarnation history because this is very important. Because this is something that the actual aliens said that what you got to do is to try to tap into too. And we'll tell you how to do this. You got to find out who you were in the ancient time to identify what kind of on the Godhead and on the ships you get ready to do when you fight the war. Now, he was also a guy by the name of Ankin Kunsu, was his name in ancient Kemet. And I think it was the 22nd or one of the 20th dynasties, late 20th dynasties. He was this particular priest. And he's on this particular stela, and he's a picture of this particular man. He was this particular person. And so when he went to Cairo, Kemet, with vacationing with his wife, now Aleister Crowley is this particular white man, is this particular occultist that did all this ceremonial magic, was the greatest ceremonial magician in Europe or in England in the early 1900s, the early 20th century, all the way up to 1947 when he died. He went to Europe, he went to Kemet or Egypt, and this particular person said, Horus, who is a form of Awas, is waiting for you, because his wife kept going into trance. That's when he found this. He said, what's been summoning you? And he found this particular stela. On this stela, or on this slate coming out of Egypt, is a picture of this particular priest. Now, Jesus ben Pandera, it means Jeshua, which means son of. Pandera, which means the actual panther skins that the priesthood or the Essenes or the Gnostic cult used to wear. So he was a son of a priesthood. You understand? That particular Jesus that you know of as Jesus the Christ, who was anointed with the level of Christ, because everybody in the priesthood was the level of Christ. But he didn't spend that long in it, because you had to spend 40-something years in it, and he only spent what? A couple of years before he went back, and this is probably the reason why his life got put out in Palestine, because he wasn't all the way to the priesthood of what he's supposed to do, but he didn't obtain the Christ level. So whatever, I don't know the reason why he died or whatever, for you or whatever. The whole key to this whole thing is, and they say that Jesus is a composite character of other Christ figures is set in motion mainly to control the people on dogmatized religion, is what the aliens have said. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But this particular person is supposed to be Aleister Crowley in Kemet. So when this particular, now remember now, white people bear witness by this, and this stuff is accurate. You see, this stuff here is not. This stuff is not dealing with just some regular little old mythological story. They got organizations on the OTO and stuff in England, and this stuff is true. We talk about big time masonry, graduate schools of masonry. So we know that them are the people that run the country. So this stuff is real. This is one of the graduate schools of masonry. This particular person is him when he was in Kemet. He was a black person at that particular time. And, well, why did he become white? Because eventually he would have to become white. You can pass that around if you want to show it to him. Why did he become white? Remember, 20% of white people do have melanin. This my water. Do have melanin. And they can do things on higher levels that other people can't do. Because Richard King tell you that in his book, African Origins of Biological Psychiatry. He said it's only 80% that have a calcified pineal gland that doesn't secrete melanin. But melanin doesn't necessarily indicate your skin color, because you can be the lightest white, bright, and damn near white, and still have that black stuff, that black substance in you. And most black people, we understand. That's why the white man was sure when he said 1 drop of black blood, you black. He knew what he was talking about because of the melanin, which is actually the soul. So if you don't have it, you don't have no soul, and we'll get into it in a few minutes. Now, what had happened happened was they said that the mutant was created also on the second phase, the first phase in Atlantis. Well, going back to the spiritual sister, I said, well, what's this deal on Aleister Crowley? She said, no, Aleister Crowley was a black priest in Atlantis. And what happened was he had his hand on creating that first mutant, which is the white man, which is a mutated form. And said, as a karma result, he became one of his own creations in the late 1800s. He became one of his own creations. So therefore, by him doing that, karmically, he had to put white people, because white people was trying to get this cutoff date between a certain time up to 1914. So he was the person that was reincarnated back to put white people or even give them a chance to save themselves by giving them a book, the Book of Law, which is the alchemical breakdown of the black man's and black woman's body, the autonomy of the body of God. And by studying this with rituals, they might be able to get some melanin and save themselves. So karmically, he had to reincarnate, and he became one of his creations. And the reason why he became one of his creations because he had to work with white people, and we know that white people in the late 1800s was not going to let black people work with them because they had taken the country, and we were in slavery. So the people, he had to be born in an actual Masonic structure in Europe to get the job done. But he was one of the people in Atlantis that created the first mutant. And if you get all of the Blavatsky and all of the secret society stuff, they talk about the black magicians in Atlantis, which was talking about black people who created the first mutant. And he was one of those particular people that created the particular first mutant. And as a result, karmically, he had to come back and do this particular thing. And so this is some things that actually went on. Now, let's go on because we want to deal with this, some things that's going down before we go into the alien agenda. You want to stop now? Okay, we want to stop now. When we come back, we're going to deal with the alien agenda and some things that is on the actual plane that's going down also, too, on this alien agenda. All right? Like I was saying, we was talking about Atlantis for Alpha Moria. One of the aspects of the actual people who people Atlantis, we know we were the original people on Earth, but there's some documents. The Blue Men from Sirius. The Blue Men from Sirius is the same as the Blue Men from Atlantis. You can get a book, Peter Calissimo's book, called the Not of This World. They talk about the Blue Men from Atlantis, and they also, in Peter Tompkins' book, The Secrets of the Mexican Pyramids, The Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids, they talk about the Blue Men from Sirius. We know when they say blue, they're talking about blue black people, something like your color, when that light hit y'all and that sky hit y'all and that blue reflects off you all. That's the original people on the earth, or high melanated people. So that blue black person, when they say blue, you know the white man is talking about black man from Sirius. Right, black man from Sirius. When you see the people, the pictures in India, they show a black person, but at this particular time, they have lightened up the pictures to blue-looking, light blue people. When you see any pictures from India where they talk about the gods and all, those were originally blue-black people. So when they say who people Atlantis, the people who people Atlantis were the people from the Sirius star system, and also Saturn, which is the planetary representation of Sirius, and the people who people that was the blue people from it, from Atlantis. What's that? I can't. What's that? Something on my face? Yeah. Okay. Is it all? Okay. These blue people that they talk about, that people of Saturn and Sirius, and also this on all these planets, because we now finding out that if the doggone monuments on Mars is the face of a black woman, in the actual Sphinx here, or the Sphinx on Mars, and the Sphinx here is the face of the black woman in the embodiment of Sekhmet, then we know that the actual people that they talk about, a human face, is also on Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and the whole 9 yards. It's just that some people say, well, we don't know of any life on those planets, which you are right. There's not probably life on those planets, but there's life in those planets. You understand? So, what we get into, so we have these blue people. Also, we have the blue men, like I said, in the planets, or in the subterranean world, which is in North and South Pole, Kentucky, also Memphis. You can go, if you can find those particular passageways. Hemmitt, Egypt, Memphis, from Memphis, Tennessee to Memphis, Egypt is a subterranean passage. as well as Mount Kilimanjaro and also Shambhala, also Tibet. So when we talk about the subterranean worlds, we also talk about blue people. That's why the white man say that his devil is up under the ground. He is right. It's just that he got you scared of your own blue-black people that's up under the ground. Now, we know this for the simple fact that we know that where did the ancient Hemmites go, or the ancient Egyptians? Just like one brother was saying about they got different places where they had the Africans living up under the ground. Even if you get the book Christianity Before Christ by John G. Jackson, they deal with a book by this guy wrote a book called Pygmy Killaboo, where the actual Twa people, or the first Pygmy people, or Twa people, said that we had a civilization just like Hemmitt or Egypt, where we tore it down and returned up under the ground. They are saying that they had a connection with Atlantis, and that particular part that fell, and they turned went up under the subterranean world, some of those particular people. As ancient Africa, or even Kemet, when it fell, then you had also the people migrating into the subterranean world. This is why the pharaohs used to bury their bodies real low into the ground. This is why the white man is telling you that hell is down. That particular hell is down is his hell, because he understands that the people up under that particular ground in the subterranean world, and it's not a dark cave like it's a civilization more advanced than this one, with their own, it probably looks just like this on the outside, because they got their own pulsating nocturnal sun or chakra sun that they talk about in Jeremiah. Also talks about it in Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, when you talk about the nocturnal sun, where you talk about as above, so below. As up on top, as so with under. As within, so without. The laws of correspondence that you read in the breakdown of the universe in the book, The Holy Kabbalion, for some of you people, the laws of Tahuti, where you get more of the scientific laws. Well, in that case, you also have the subterranean world. And the people who were there were also the actual blue-black people. So when they talk about the fallen Set, or Shaitan, and Set is the word Set, or Sut, and An, which is the black dog, Anubis, or Anpu, and you got Satan, or Set-On. When you get in Chaldea, you got Shaitan, or Shaitan. You're talking about one of the first original blue-black gods that actually fell into the third dimension as far as the human representation of that God, which is talking about you, and the earth falling from Sirius. They call that fallen God Sirius, which I'll get into later and give you the details, is talking about this particular devil. It is the white man devil that is your most ancient God. Also, they said that he is up under the ground. That particular man up under the ground is called Sethanis, which is talking about Sut, or Atan, which is talking about a people that are up under the ground, which is the crystal city, and it's the actual people who are the owners of the planet, who have always been running the planet. They say, well, why did they let black people get away this long suffering? Because the most superior people were up under the planet, were under the ground, underground, whatever. The most serious people are the most superior people. So therefore, the people who had to do a certain amount of karma reincarnated on top of the actual planet. Now, what is happening is the white man understands that what is getting ready to rise up is coming from all levels. The extraterrestrial government is getting ready to get their stuff together on top of the ground, and the extraterrestrial government is coming from outer space, and the extraterrestrial government is coming from up under the ground. So they say their devil is not only the black man on top of the ground, but the black man under the ground. I've had the privilege of meeting a sister that ended up in black media, and she wasn't a conscious sister. She was born with a very, she's a psychic, so she's always been seeing things. And she wasn't a conscious sister, but the spirit led her to black media for answers. And she ended up there, and she told me about 2 or 3 days ago, now this was about a month ago, no, about 3 weeks ago. She said about 2 or 3 days prior to her becoming to black media, she saw 2 or 3 black men came to her in her house, spiritual black men or whatever, and they took her underneath the subterranean world. And she said, well, I couldn't explain it, she said, because what I saw was so beautiful, but it wasn't in the physical structure as of what we see on top of the ground, as what this white man is dealing with. She said it was so spiritual. She said, so the architecture was, she said, I couldn't explain it. She said, but you could even become part of the spiritual structure. And this explains why the white man here wasn't able to penetrate that particular area, for the simple fact that Your thoughts and everything dealing on a high vibratory rate or a ninth vibratory rate, your thoughts and everything has to mesh to even get in there. You have to have the right spiritual thoughts and probably the right spiritual makeup also to even penetrate the subterranean worlds also. So now, this is a reason why, you know, if the white man had a chance to get down there, he'd have had pictures, National Geographic, ABC, and all that. He'd have had pictures of it by now. But the reason why is he understood that he could not get down that way. So now we also have the actual Hemmites, the blue-black Hemmites that's actually up under the ground and at that particular time. And we met this sister that's so psychic and did this. Now, I want to talk about the face on Mars. I'm going to deal with a whole lot of things. The face on Mars, now the aliens, based on white people, are getting these abductions and stuff. And some of them are getting messages more than we are for the simple fact that we get ready to take back our planet whether we like it or not. And we are the doggone aliens. Also, we are the rulers of the universe and here. But what they're saying is that they have given them some actual estimations on how old the Sphinx is on Mars. And the Sphinx on Mars is about the same age of the Sphinx that's here. And they said now the alien said that the Sphinx on Mars is at least 1 million years old. Therefore, the Sphinx that sits in the middle of the world here has got to be at least 1 million years old. So therefore, that deals with the point where Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we don't have a birth record. They can't trace our stuff. We're 66 trillion years old is just a representation of how old we are, meaning you having no birth record. So the Sphinx, being the oldest thing on this planet that they can trace, is at least 1 million years old. The last trace based on before carbon dating ran out was exactly 80,000 years old. Now, we know that there's no way that the pyramids could be there in a structure. Right with the Sphinx, and they saying one was built before the other. The reason why they have problem carbon dating the actual pyramids is because the actual limestone that was on the pyramids was taken off and used to build the mosques in Cairo, in ancient Cairo and stuff, that the actual Muslims came in and stripped the actual pyramids, which they actually give you a representation of how they look. Also on the Earth, Wind, and Fire album cover, all in all, of that white limestone, and also the actual capstone that was on top of black granite that sits, I think that's in the Cairo Museum, that black capstone, that the only way you can where you can find the actual, like I said before in one of my other lectures when I was here, that the only place you can find the actual stone, that black granite limestone that's on the top of the pyramids is in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Is the only place, and this is what the Rosicrucians said about, that's the only place you can find that particular limestone that's on the top. That was on the capstone that actually when the sun would hit it, it would shine just like a doggone light and all. And this is what you actually saw the representation on the Earth, Wind, and Fire album cover. As well as Peter Tompkins' book, Secrets of the Egyptian Pyramids, where they actually have the actual pillar cases of the limestone there. So this is why they was not able to trace it. So they attributed it to Khufu for the simple fact that pharaohs, if it was old enough and didn't have a name, some of the pharaohs used to play a game, they used to put their name on it. But in my man's book, Stairway to Heaven, Zachariah Stitchin, he's giving having an article done by Alan H. Gardner, who was one of the people who translated Heretical Crimes to the British Museum and said the white man was the devil, who was a hieroglyphic expert. That particular person also has got some stuff, this article where he said it was the forgery of the pyramids, where the actual pharaohs would actually forge the pyramids by him being a hieroglyphic expert. There's a whole article on that particular part also too. So now we know that that particular face on Mars is at least 1 million years old. And you remember what Delbert Blair said, that they have a stamp in Grenada with a black woman's face, and when they took the stamp and put it over the actual, transposed it over the face on Mars and the actual pyramid, they fit perfectly. So they're talking about a particular black woman, or what the pyramid was, or the face on Mars was. And that was at least 1 million years old also. Now, to get back into what I was saying, and I said this in the last couple of lectures, I told you that the actual first star in heaven, Aton, was in actuality the first soul of the first original God that appears out of the south gate of his mother, the triple blackness of space, which is in the constellation of Draco. In the south of her, This first star that was born was Sirius, which is the first soul of a god, that is also the first soul of a man that walked the earth also too, to make man as God a law, because God has to make things. When he does something, he makes it a law. So anything that happened on this earth, God had to become it first. So God was in the embodiment of a black man. Why was there a black man other than a black woman? Because the black woman was in the embodiment of the triple blackness of space, which is the mother of God, as I said also too. Now, dealing with that, I'm going to get into that in a few minutes, but dealing with that, Master Farad Muhammad, which was also indicated to me when I asked where was this particular person, they said now he's, based on Melchizedek, they said that he has now completed his earth incarnation and he's now a small star. So now this gives rise to what is really going on when you raise the kundalinis and the crown chakra is opened up based on going to the triple blackness of space, which is the medulla oblongata chakra, which is the black substance in you that actually radiates light. Once that is radiated, that halo that's on Jesus Christ's head is actually is the same as a small star. So once you create certain life incarnations on the earth plane and certain classrooms, because we're only in the kindergarten of knowledge, we got to go to certain other classrooms when we leave here, if we make the grade. And when you make the grade, upon graduation, you become a small star. That's why they said that those stars were put up there with the souls of original black people. Both Gerald Massey explains this in his work, as well as Honorable Elijah Muhammad explains it in his works. That those are the original, as well as coming off the Egyptian documents, and those stars out there are the souls of our ancestors. Also, because when you break down the ancestors and you break down the gods, they're also in the representation as stars, which is the souls of actual humans that once was on the earth plane also too. So I said, well, if Master Farad Muhammad is a small star now, that means everything that he said about the white man being the devil has to be true. Otherwise, he would not get to be on a high level of spirituality and graduate from the earth plane by lying. Also, this bears witness what the spiritual sister said about him, Aleister Crowley, becoming one of his own creations, and still saying, bearing witness on the spiritual level that this particular mutant was created, even though we got enough evidence now that said that the mutant or the white man was created based on genetic engineering, or you call sex tantra. We got enough of that in history also too. So these are some things that is going down also too. Now, like I told a couple other people and all, and I told Mr. Lane when he was coming up in the car, I said the reason why you don't have to include white people, and the reason why some people don't understand, they saying, well, why don't we have to include white people at this particular time? Number one, if we did create the mutant, and anything that we have done in the past that we have gone wrong with, we have paid for it dearly. So on this time, the slate is clean with us because we have no more karma for the simple doggone fact. How can I be chastised for a sin that I'm supposed to have done on this earth plane, and I know the whole time when I was in this earth plane, I was not in my rightful mind. I was in the white man's mind. And I was born on this earth plane not even knowing who I am until late. We got people that live on the earth plane and die on the earth plane, and they still don't know who they are for a whole lifetime. So how in the devil can they be chastised if they going up before the Creator and they standing as an African? And the Creator says, I am getting ready to judge you for what you did in South Carolina. Well, I can't be judged for what I did in South Carolina, because I'm standing before you, a black man. And when I was in South Carolina, I was out of my mind. I didn't know who I was. I was born there thinking I was a cat when I was actually a bat. So how can I be chastised for something that I didn't even know who I was? And this is how we are. We born on the earth thing, don't even know who we are. We think we Willie Jones from doggone Mississippi. You understand? When in actuality, our soul is more ancient than that. So how can I be chastised for something that I didn't know who I was? And they also say that, God take care of sick people and fools and all. We both, sick and fools. So whatever you want to do. So that means that don't apply to us also too. Now, the reason why we don't have to include white people for the simple doggone fact that when these laws were made, white people wasn't even on the planet. So therefore, we don't have to include them because they wasn't even on the planet when these laws were made. All these laws of retribution and all this particular stuff that we're talking about as far as what we being penalized for. So the hell with white people, we got to get our stuff together. You know what I'm saying? Now, I also said I wanted to put to rest also this particular thing, whether Jesus is the Son of God, or whether Allah is the Son of God, or whether we just worship God or the Son. Well, like I said in my previous couple of lectures, the Son of the Most High that you know of as God, in the heavens, his name is Az. His name is Adoni. His name is Atan. His name is Yahweh. His name is Allah. All those names that you get, those particular names is the Son. The most ancient name, which is called El-Sut, has a mother, which is the most ancient name of God. So when we talk about the Most High in heaven, that Most High in heaven is the Son. His mother is the triple darkness of space, which is the womb of the universe. And the reason why we got this fight going on, because we don't understand that God has a mother. And if we were to put the mother back into God, then we would understand that there would be no question on whether we worship the Father or the Son. There's only the Son, and there's only the great Mother. And the great Father that's supposed to be in heaven was never in existence. It was only the female at first. Just goes down to the microcosmic body of the female that's on the earth plane now, who do not need a male to reproduce based on the sperm being solar static energy that traps into semen, into liquid, and has the baby. That is the soul. The spiritual soul is coming from someplace else. The sperm is only the vessel that carries that. So if the woman fashion shakes her vagina up to the sun rays and catch the same sun rays as they do in Tibet, they can have a baby without the man. That is why we understand the reason why the first thing that's being born is doggone female, because up until late after the fetus is late in stage, it develops, the clitoris develops into a penis, or it stays a vagina. Now that's a doggone science. So we know that in actuality the first origin of anything was female. And when we talk about female, and we talk about the male and the aggressive part, or we talk about the male and female dualities, when we talk about the male principle is nothing but the aggressive half of the feminine. So there's nothing but the divine feminine. It's the ultimate part. They also tell you that when we talk about the star system Sirius, and we talk about, they say the aspirants, the people who are aspiring to get up there, they are males and what you would call female. But when you get up there, your soul, or the highest manifestation of what you call yourself, God, even if you enter masculine body, is a feminine way. So the whole realm up there in heaven is the feminine way. So you know that if we are worshiping this male-dominated religion, we got to be worshiping something that's straight up the dialectical opposite of what there is in heaven. And there's one thing they say. God might be in the pool room, but one place he ain't. He ain't in them doggone churches. That's why the white man gives you one on every block. That's why in the last days, they say in the last days that the TV would be the ruler of the day. And what would come on the TV would keep the people asleep. If you got cable, mash the doggone remote control button and find out that every other doggone channel is a preacher preaching. And this is something to keep you in slavery. Because the white man has gone in and extracted the juice out of the doggone books and have given you something that's in total confusion and in total denial of your true nature, which is God. Which in the book it simply states that be ye as I am, perfect as I am. And you don't get to that. And therefore you don't get spirituality by going up in the church and having somebody holler at you for 15 minutes. You understand what I'm saying? That is nothing but mass confusion, and that is worse than the doggone disco and the whole 9 yards and stuff are on the same doggone plane. What's the doggone difference? Saturday night or Sunday morning? They're all one and the same. To let you know that it's a conspiracy, because remember now, the Masonic groups have been running America since 1776. Or what you call it, what's that, 1776? They've been running this thing even before then. So you know by the time you got out of doggone slavery, if it's a Masonic thing that's understood to keep you in 1865, keep you in slavery, in mental slavery, you know when they're going to give you something that's supposed to be something to raise you up, you know it's going to keep you in slavery, and it's done well up to this day. Don't you know, we went down to Beaufort, South Carolina. My brother went down there to get a ritual from a Yoruba priestess. And he saw this beautiful looking church. It was old, it looked like about 150 years old. He said, well, what is that? They say that used to be a church when black people got out of slavery. They had the Igbo, the Hausa, the Yoruba, the Bodun. All of them used to doggone go into this church like home. They would all meet, say up whatever they got to say, and they would split up in pairs, and each separate religion that was in Africa, they would go to one section of the church and worship. And then when they would get through, they'd come back together and they would leave. And it was going perfect. And the white man saw that and said, oh, I got to break that up. That's real revolutionary religion or spirituality. And built them, same old Christian church that you got on every block, he built them that right up the street. And they've been going to that ever since. So that ought to let you know that the church was systematically put in place to keep you in place. And you know doggone well 98% of the reason why you won't get with what I'm saying is because of some religious belief you got. And the only time somebody is going to come up against you and tell you something about you wrong when you're trying to liberate yourself is because they stuck in the Jesus bag or either in the Orthodox Islam bag, which has become the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? So we want to check that, and that's one reason why I'm saying these particular things the way they are, and I'm going to get into what the aliens have already said on some things on the religion. Now, we talk about Gerald Massey. Gerald Massey was a black man that walked into the British Museum and wrote the truth. Or he was a white man that walked into the British Museum and wrote the truth. And when white people, when they took all this stuff out of Hemmitt, or Egypt, and they took all this stuff out of Egypt, Egyptologists came in and they could not admit to what they really saw and the truth. So they lied because the white man is nothing but a liar. So therefore, this particular white man called Gerald Massey came in and wrote the truth. And some of his books, the Book of the Beginning, Volume 1 and 2, Natural Genesis, the second book, part of the Book of the Beginning, and his last book in 1907, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World. Those books, in the combination of his lectures, you can go and spend the money on the big volume books where you can get the book Gerald Massey Lectures that details all of that, particular science, which is in one book. These are lectures that he did around the country in the United States when he traveled over here and several things. He died in 1907. The key behind Gerald Massey, why he told the truth that we've gotten from the Brotherhood, is Gerald Massey, that was supposed to have been a white man in England in the 1800s, in actuality a black man that was passive.